Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host, coming at you from the pilot in Milan, California. So I dropped my load in Carson the other night, and then I just stayed on a street in Carson, which was convenient because I could there's an in and out around the corner. There's some other places so I could use the bathroom and get something to eat. So it was cool. So then I was asked to pick up a trailer, and a specific trailer that ended up having a specific trailer at my 90, and that trailer ended up having 3 out of the 4 hinges on the right side trailer door broken. So I sent a message to RA and said, hey, here's what's up with this trailer. But I hooked it, and I was like, all right, well, the door's not going to fall off as long as it's closed, so I basically had 3 points of securement on the door. So in the morning I was like, hey, so I said to dispatch, and my fleet manager's out on vacation, but I said to dispatch, I'm like, hey, I got this trailer that needs to be fixed. If you could put a load on me, then I can, get it fixed en route. Well, the response was, well, we can't put a load on you till you get the trailer fixed. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to drive 100 miles out of my way to then sit at a truck stop that has a shop so I can get a trailer fixed if I'm then gonna have to backtrack or whatever. Because Los Angeles is the Los Angeles area, the basin, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's on the West Coast, but there are a number of directions you can go, right? And so if the last time I was out here, I picked up a load out of Phoenix, or Tempe actually, so I would get it fixed on the way over. Or if somebody was like, hey, you got a load to pick up in the Central Valley, let's say up in Arvin by Bakersfield or even farther north, I would have just been like, okay, I'll get it fixed on the way up to 5. So I was like, okay, well, they didn't offer me any money, so I was kind of like, all right, well, I'm going to take it to our drop yard, because then I can just get rid of it. And so the RA was like, yeah, take it to the drop yard, that's fine. So I dropped it, but then I didn't make myself available till 2200 last night because my 70 clock was really low. So met up with some family members last night. We went out and got pizza. Because I think I've mentioned before, my wife's from here in Southern Cal, so I know. And I, over the years, I've had family members out here too from my side of the family. But anyway, I met up with some family members, and we went and got some pizza, and then I just came over here bobtail and parked. So anyway, I'm just kind of vegging a little bit, waiting. There was 18 people in the shower line, so I've been working out a little bit, and I was like, well, I should probably give some love to my fans. So couple of things. Yeah, so let me finish that story. I'm a little bit distracted, I guess. So I got a load I pick up tonight. It's going up to Corrine, Utah. That's not super optimal, but it pays over $3 a mile, and I want to get back to the East Coast, and usually it's not a problem, but when you don't have your actual fleet manager manning the show, and sometimes you get the JV, and you got to work with that. So I'm gonna get up to Corrine. I gotta get some laundry done and stuff anyway, so I'll stop at the Salt Lake Terminal. I think it's a live unload up there, and then hopefully I can get something out of Utah going east. I'm not relishing the opportunity to go across Wyoming, but we'll just play it by ear and see what it looks like. Because, Wyoming, the road could be closed for 3 days, or it could be, like sunny and 40. So we'll just see. I'm not going to make my life hard, but if I have a window to get through there and get, over into western Nebraska, if that's the way I have to go, then that's what I'll do. So it's March 9th. Happy birthday to my oldest. Yeah, she's pretty awesome. So happy birthday to her. And today's Thursday. She was actually born on Wednesday. It was a Wednesday that she was born. I remember it distinctly. I still haven't lived down the fact that while my wife was in labor, I went, because I was in the Navy, I went for a run. I still haven't lived that down, but I was there for the birth, so I did my run and I got back in time. Anyway, March 9th, a couple of cool, interesting stuff. 1776, March 9th, Adam Smith publishes The Wealth of Nations, which is actually the short title. I was looking at some of that stuff. I mean, I took economics in college, but I was looking at some of the stuff he said about labor and about the division of labor. And one of the things, and he was, I don't know that he was ahead of his time, but he certainly was very observant. And he observed that when laborers combine, meaning form a union, right? And by the way, the word combination is also, it's a synonym for a conspiracy. But so he said when laborers combine, they raise all the laborers' wages. He said when masters, meaning employers, combine, they lower wages. And that's true of mergers, if you think about it, right? Like when two companies merge, somebody's always going to lose their job. It just ends up happening that way. And also, wages may stagnate. But he also talked about the fact that labor, when it combines, is punished. And back then, back in the 1700s, it was like, when I say punished, I mean like arrested, flogged, reacted to with violence. But he said, but when masters combine, nobody really says anything. And so, this idea that, corporations are oppressing the worker class, as some kind of modern phenomenon, it's never not been the case. Never not been the case, right? And so, anyway, if you've never read The Wealth of Nations, you know what I hate is when on one of these Apple phones you set an alarm, but then you're in the middle of something and it still thinks, oh, you must not be awake, so I'll ring the alarm. But anyway, sorry about that. So I commend The Wealth of Nations. It's certainly has stood the test of time. There's a reason why it's studied widely. And maybe you don't need to read the whole thing, but certainly the Cliff Notes version of it. So that was in 1776. In 1908, the soccer club Inter Milan was formed after a schism with AC Milan. And by the way, if you ever pay like it's kind of funny, like these the soccer clubs here in the States, the professional ones, like you see some of them, they're like DC United, right? DC United, I mean, I get why they want the United thing because of Manchester United and some of the other major clubs. But the funny thing is, they're not united with anything, right? Like these a lot of these club names are like descriptive of what happened, like Manchester, or Manchester United is more than one club came together, right? So anyway, Inter Milan, 1908. On this date in 1997, Biggie Smalls, the notorious B.I.G., was murdered here in Los Angeles. I mean, I say here, I'm not actually in Los Angeles, but he was murdered in Los Angeles after, I think it was the Soul Train Awards show. But anyway, that was, you know, seen as maybe like retribution for Tupac's murder, which happened, I think, the year before in Vegas. So yeah, just no bueno, but what are you gonna do? So anyway, I wanted to talk about a company that's kind of doing it right, in a sad way, but doing it right. So FreightWorks, which is a company, they had a you might not recognize the name, but they have a logo that has a big like interstate sign that has a number 1 in the middle of it. So FreightWorks, they're out of Rutherfordton, North Carolina, which is actually outside of Charlotte. They are shutting down. And I say, you know, they're doing something right, even though it's not a great day for them, in that, you know, they basically said, hey, no driver's going to be stranded. They're even paying bonuses to drivers who finish things out and deliver their loads, and, you know, just bring the truck to wherever they want them to, whether it's their home or back to their terminal. They had like, I think 140 drivers, 168 power units. They said their head of operations she did a video message to all the employees and everything, and very heartfelt. It's online, you can see it, but they basically said, hey, look, you know, we had these big contracts, which is really the way to go. I mean, I don't think, you know, companies that are using the spot market, I talked about US Express, you know, it can be very punishing, just trying to rely with a big portion on the spot market. So it sounded like FreightWorks had a lot of contracts, but they were being squeezed by their customers to, you know, reduce rates, but also with a concomitant reduction in volume. And then apparently one of their big customers just basically said, hey, we're not going to use your trucks anymore. And, you know, they're kind of in that spot where they're not small enough to be super nimble with I think they had 168 power units. They're not small enough to be super nimble. They gotta rely on those contracts, but they're not big enough to weather that storm. They're not big enough to, you know, kind of call the shots, or at least be, you know, on the same level as their customers. You know, some trucking companies, you know, customers couldn't survive without the company, at least in the short run. So it's like when you have, you know, like sometimes you go places and you'll see a company that's not super big, but they got like 40 trailers sitting at this one place. Well, that tells you that this company has, at least at that location, is heavily relied upon to move cargo. You know, and so it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like, you try to diversify your customer base, but at the same time, you don't have this critical mass at one customer that makes them be super reliant upon you. You know, I worked with a guy he's pretty savvy when I was at MetLife, and he said, you know, you have these options, right? You can be, you could be a little fish in a big pond where you have lots of choices, or you could be a big fish in a little pond. And, you know, he said and he went on to illustrate, he said it's better to be important to a few people than to be just a casual relationship to lots of people. So, you know, have you ever known somebody that had like a gazillion friends, right? And, you know, they go to parties or they go in a club and they're just working the room. And then there's the other person that has like 3 really close friends, and that's their world, right? It's probably true that the person that has the 3 really close friends can rely on them way more than the person who has, you know, dozens and dozens of friends can rely on them. And that's kind of what my old boss was talking about. And I'm not saying that FreightWorks did anything wrong. Like I said, I think they're a stand-up company, how they're treating their employees, and you know, they just really, you know, got kind of hit in the teeth, and sometimes that's, you know, there's not much you can do but kind of shut things down in an orderly way. And to their credit, they apparently they move a lot of perishable. To their credit, they're like, hey, we're not going to let any of our customers down. We're not going to let any, you know, of our employees down, and we're going to do this the right way. And there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, businesses fail. Lots of businesses failed. When's the last time were you in Sears? You know, but 100 years ago, Sears was, I mean, hell, 50 years ago, Sears was the big kid on the block. Businesses fail. And sometimes even really smart people with really good ideas, really good intentions, and that work really hard aren't successful, or aren't successful over the long haul. So, you know, anyway, hope all those guys, well, actually, I hope everybody there lands on their feet. I still think there's work out here. I still see a lot of advertisements. So 140 drivers in an area as big as Charlotte. I think everybody should be okay, and shouldn't have to look too hard for stuff. Same thing with the mechanics, you know, and the shop people. There's always work. So hopefully everybody just is able to, excuse me, kind of do an orderly withdrawal and just jump right back into it with a new opportunity. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.